Hey, are you looking for a game that's not going to break your bank? It's going to give you a single player campaign, multiplayer that's fun, unique mechanics, and oh yeah, it's not a battle royale? Well, let's prepare for Titanfall. Okay, before we get started, have to get this off my chest. I don't trust anything that EA does, ever. However, I'm going to take that bias and I'm going to push it to the side for this one because this game was developed by Respawn and they did a great job with it. If you also have some trouble believing that EA does something good, press that like button and let me know your thoughts on Respawn, EA, and Titanfall 2. Have you ever felt like the publishers are out of control? Like we are falling off a cliff and there's nothing there to save us from reskins and yearly roster updates? Do you need a game to catch you from certain doom? Titanfall 2 regularly goes on sale for under $10, and the amount of game you get for that is far more than the annual cost of some other first-person shooters that we have right now. Titanfall 2 is a first-person shooter available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, developed by Respawn Entertainment and published by EA. It runs on a heavily modified version of the source engine, yes, the one that Valve made, and it was released on October 28, 2016, sandwiched between Gears of War 4, Battlefield 1, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. All three of those other games were sequels, but with more clout and significantly higher expectations that they all pretty much failed miserably at. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that Overwatch and Dishonored 2 also released in 2016, and they've represented themselves significantly better than those other three games that I mentioned. For the backstory, Titanfall, the original Titanfall 1, published in March of 2014, introduces the Titanfall universe and explains through loading screens and, well, the internet, instead of really much in the game, that prior to Titanfall 1, humanity had started space exploration and lived in a region of explored space considered the frontier, pretty much the Wild West with robots and AI. Instead of just the Sol system, we now have many inhabited systems and many more uncharted worlds. To reach these distant systems, the Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation, or IMC, funded expeditions and promised settler support. Lo and behold, the IMC went back on their promise and leave the settlers stranded for several decades, leaving the frontier pretty much independent from the core systems. The IMC returned and laid claim to the frontier, who united under the Frontier Militia, and thus began the Titan Wars. Titans are basically the evolutionary result of research into powered exoskeletons and machine learning. The IMC claimed victory in the Titan Wars and over the next 15 years hunted down the militia. And that's where Titanfall 1 starts. Through some twists, turns, and a lot of multiplayer matches, the militia are able to strike back at the IMC and cripple the resupply and reinforcement route. The plot generally came through a little hard to understand because as a player, you typically join the best match available and not the next one in the storyline. Anyway, I digress. 5 years later, we get the Titanfall 2 story and are introduced to Rifleman Jack Cooper. Titanfall 2's campaign is a much more succinct method of telling the story, and you can tell that Respawn put a lot of effort into the narrative and the campaign. The single-player campaign for Titanfall 2 is a well-paced shooter that has a little bit of everything over the course of about 6 to 8 hours. My only real complaint was that the levels are broken into several different parts with loading screens, but it was released a few years ago and a 40 gigabyte game was absolutely huge. And those loading screens are pieces of art and provide updates to each mission. The first level does a good job of orienting the player to the traditional aspects of a first-person shooter, and then it starts to introduce wall running and some of the other mechanics, which, when done correctly, is extremely satisfying and enthralling. The game's mechanics are not overly difficult, but I think it's easy to learn and hard to master. The Pilot's Gauntlet, which is the introduction to wall running, I probably played for at least 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, to try and get a decent time on the records that are displayed on the wall. I broke 50 seconds, which according to the subreddit Titanfall, not a good time, but it felt like an accomplishment to me. It didn't take long after walking away from the Pilot's Gauntlet, that we're introduced to real combat. And things don't go exactly as planned for our protagonist. The story, which I'm not going to spoil in this video, new mechanics are introduced to provide more than just a run, shoot, reload, repeat. The campaign writing is meaningful and more pronounced and impactful than many first-person shooters, with only a few campaigns that stick out in my head as worth playing through for a second, third, or fourth time. The player gets to have some interaction as the pilot with his linked Titan BT-7274, also known as BT. Select one of the two options and BT will respond appropriately. Over time through the game, a relationship forms that is fresh and lively, and those that have endured shared misery with their friends will understand this bond that forms between the man and the mech beast. There is a great balance between pilot and Titan time, with all the boss fights being Titan fights and most, if not all, the puzzles being pilot time, with certain portions completely devoid of enemies presenting some of the most challenging sequences. When there are gunfights, and they are frequently gunfights, the pilot's speed and maneuverability can either save you or doom you. Trust me, you don't want to run into 15 different enemies and expect to live. Titan fights are spread apart enough to not become common and boring. Often they are challenging and deadly if you just stand in the open and try and tank everything. You might be in a Titan, but so are the enemy. For multiplayer gameplay, it's more difficult to judge at this point for several reasons. The player base is not nearly as large as it once was, and due to the fumbled release simultaneous with all the other titles, it was never that large to begin with. Currently, the largest player base is on PC, and the active subreddit Titanfall does discuss better lobbying techniques periodically. Apex Legends ironically breathes some new life into Titanfall 2's multiplayer as the games are set in the same universe. Gameplay as a pilot in multiplayer is about moving quickly and knowing the map. Due to the added speed of wall running and the 2.5 years of practice for most of the current player base, there are some extremely proficient players who are capable of some downright amazing shots while flying through the air and completing some insane grappling hook techniques. Even when dying to other players, I've had quite a bit of fun because the map's still populated by NPCs, who I can pick off with ease and ensure that even on my worst day playing, I'm still able to shoot something and not get frustrated. As we run through a level and start vaulting down walls, double jumping, shooting, and flying kung fu, we realize that the levels are superbly designed to allow horizontal and vertical movement. On easier difficulties in single player, it's fun to practice while running and shooting at targets, while in multiplayer, it's entertaining to try and reach new spots by different movement techniques. Moving, shooting, and fighting as a pilot are just as much fun, if not more so, than Titan combat because of how well the campaign and levels are designed and implemented. I'm a longtime advocate of doing something simple, but doing it well, and Titanfall 2 hits the nail on the head for adding running on walls and executes it to perfection with longer rooms, more open spaces, large vertical access, and rarely puts the player in a tube or a hall too short, limiting freedom of movement. Several levels have puzzles based on wall running and combining other storyline mechanics. I really want to tell you, I just can't. For increasingly more dynamic scenarios to work through. Other aspects of the game require basic timing of jumps, and when sequenced with the other mechanics, it just gets more and more complex. While getting some of the most difficult parts require careful sequencing, quick reactions, and a little outside-the-box thinking. Then we get to Titan combat, and oh, do you feel powerful when you play as BT-7274. I wish I could have upgraded BT shields and some other capabilities, but I really found myself at a good balance between health, shield, and the ability to heal. I also found the 7 different loadouts scattered across the campaign to be fun, unique. They all served a different purpose, and they were all good in a different environment or playstyle. There's a large-scale Titan battle, and it was just so much fun to go through that fight and just taking down other Titans, moving, shooting, and doing all the different abilities to swing the tide in the malicious favor. The art in the levels is simply gorgeous and do a great job of hiding the linear design through the style. It feels like it's much more open, much wider, much longer than it really is for this game. The last time I played this game, because I wanted the footage for this review, I did record this on an RTX 2080 equipped PC. That being said, I own this game on an Xbox One. I originally played it on an Xbox One, and it has looked good on the Xbox One, a PC with an RX 580, and a PC with an RTX 2080. It's run great on every single one of my machines, and it has looked fantastic on every single one of those machines. We have a beautiful game with great art. All the models are done superbly. I would say like Titanfall 2 visually stands up against 2018 and 2019 releases. Even in a fast-paced multiplayer game, the maps are beautiful and well rendered. Titans, grunts, effects, shots, they all flow smoothly and are not jarring. Player models are not only impressive to look at, but each of the 7 different tactical abilities has its own model, allowing for the rapid identification on the fast-paced frontier battlefield. For For the gun gameplay in Titanfall 2, it's simply just fun. The player's health is fairly low, but that means moving faster or realizing that there are too many enemies and using a sniper rifle in single player. Multiplayer really rewards the mobility of pilots and Titans, while sitting still and sniping is not often rewarded outside of a few particular spots. Time to kill is fairly short, but it still requires accurate aiming down sights or ADS to achieve. Wall running and gunning down enemies is entirely too entertaining, especially when combined with sliding under a door to surprise people. To be fair, this extra mobility and agility comes at a cost. If you're in multiplayer, getting used to that even faster twitch speed reactions of veteran players can seem daunting at first. Finding that perfect balance between running and aiming down sights is key and a heck of a lot of fun to boot once you start getting it down. SMGs are fast and loose, assault rifles are punchier but slightly slower, machine guns lack the accuracy I crave, DMRs and snipers are balanceable, and I found myself switching them out as I faced a change in environment or scenario instead of where most games it's one or the other. Shotguns are probably my favorite weapon in the game. I don't understand why, but whenever I pick up the EVA-8, I just can't put it down until I'm out of ammunition. Overall, 23 primary weapons, 6 secondary, and 4 anti-Titan weapons, while Titans have 9 primary weapons, 8 ordnance for secondary weapons, and then 7 Titan core abilities or weapons which have to charge up and are extremely powerful. Additionally, there's 7 tactical abilities for the pilots. These different abilities offer drastically different approaches to the same map or match type. Each one is fun in its own way and allow for a pilot and a player to come back and experience something new if they haven't played with those abilities before. In the original Titanfall, players were allowed to fully customize their Titan loadout. That's not the case with Titanfall 2, and it led to some better balance in multiplayer games. There are now 7 different classes or archetypes, each with their own unique class weapon, tactical or utility ability, and core ability or weapon. They also have ordnance and defensive abilities. That's a ton of buttons, but it's really easy to learn on console controller. I really recommend remapping for PC players. The classes are broken down into Strider or Light, Atlas or Medium class, and Ogre or Heavy class. Each one of those has 2 different Titans. The Striders are more maneuverable, relying on evading damage and hitting quickly. Ogres are heavier, slower, and harder to take down, while the Atlas is a decent combination sitting in the middle. The 7th Titan is a Monarch, and it's based on the Vanguard Titan and is another heavy class. Customization isn't completely removed. There are 3 Titan kit classes, a universal for all the different models, class specific, and entry method. Entry method is basically how the Titan comes in from orbit. These kits allow customization and optimization for the playstyles within limits. For monetization, Titanfall 2 does have cosmetic monetization, and the prices are, simply put, just astronomical. I don't see their monetization as an overwhelming issue. One, because it's just so outrageously expensive, I don't think anybody would actually buy it. And 2, there are no loot boxes. So you see what you're buying. There's so many different ways to earn free skins in the game, usually through completing challenges or going through and leveling up weapons. Although not nearly as fancy as the purchase ones, it should satisfy that itch. PlayStation Network and Xbox Live both have methods to allow for parents to prevent children from purchasing these outrageously priced cosmetics. The PC launcher, Origin, however, does not appear to have that backstop at this time. There are several different versions of the game available for purchase: Normal, Deluxe, and Ultimate. The Ultimate unlocked the jumpstart of the Pilot and Titan abilities to give players an even footing in multiplayer. Everything's unlockable and obtainable through playtime and multiplayer, so I don't really see the need for that one. There are 4 paid DLCs, but they're actually all cosmetic bundles and not related to the free content updates. Titanfall 2 did all of its content updates for free. That is simply amazing. Hey, for the RIdir Gaming 5 qualities in this video game that we always rank on, we're looking at age range. It was originally rated as 16 plus before they changed up the ESRB ratings. It still stands. I don't recommend this for tweens. I don't recommend this for anybody younger because there's a lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of shooting, some dismemberment. But if you want to play with your kid, you know your kid better than I do because I don't know your kid. I do recommend going through playing this one by yourself first before you introduce your kid to the game. Hey, for the second category, purpose of the game. This game is a fun game. It's there to entertain. 3, monetization. Yes, there is heavy monetization push in this game. It's not loot boxes. It still irks me that monetization is so heavy, but it's really outrageous. PlayStation and Xbox have some preventative measures. Origin, not so much. That leads into number 4, parental controls. The game doesn't have organic parental controls. So that is on us as parents to be like, yeah, I'm not gonna let you play this game because it has blood, gore, and violence and I can't turn it off. Once again, going back to your decision. If you wanna let your kids play this game, you know them better. And the last one, number 5, it's online interaction. Single player campaign, no online interaction required. However, multiplayer, there's going to be interaction. I've been able to mute anybody that I didn't want to listen to, and that was fine. Alright, so that's RIdir Gaming's take on this game. In summary, absolutely recommend this game. It usually goes on sale for underneath $10. I've seen it less than $9. It has a fantastic single player campaign, fantastic multiplayer. The people that play this game are extremely passionate. If you go to the subreddit Titanfall, they will help you out if you have any questions. I could not recommend this game anymore, especially for the price point. This has been RIdir Gaming, and I'll see you next time.